Welcome back to Great Lakes Junction, and now I bring you the conclusion of finishing off the sewing machine repair. So we've got this piece in the end that I was talking about we still need to change. I did get the key filed down. So it was an old skeleton key. I cut the part off that would stick out that you would traditionally see on these. So it's just a round shaft, and then I filed it down into a triangle shape for that key lock. So I think that's going to work for that. I ground that pin off, so I've gotten rid of that with the Dremel tool, just ground that off of there. Now I don't know where exactly it's going to line up on this because I need my top with the lock in it to see where it's going to line up, to see if there's anywhere I can drill another hole and put that machine screw in and use as a new pin. So I can't do that step yet either. So there really is nothing now I can do until this is set and I can take all these clamps off. Okay, so sorry, I had the top of that cut off a little bit in that last segment of video, so you couldn't see everything I was talking about. But it's set up. I took the clamps off, and now I've moved on to the other end where this was, all of this veneer was loose in here. So I've glued it. It's in the clamps now. Once that is set up, that's the end where it's crooked, and I want to try and cut it off straight. But there was a lot of loose material there, so it had to be glued. So we'll come back later and we'll try and cut that off nice and straight and peel off the piece I don't want and patch it up, and then we'll finish up with that lock mechanism, trying to make everything work out with it, and this project will be finished. Okay, so we've taken all the clamps off that you saw on it last. So now this is this end of the case that sits on here, and this outside veneer is missing. So I'm going to try and cut this off even if I can, and I found that other piece, so we'll cut some off of that and try and piece it in, and we'll try and match up the stain later. The other end's all clamped in now. We got the top piece of wood in, we had it sanded off, our bottom piece of wood in, cut out for the lock mechanism. We still need to cut the slot bigger in the plate in the end of that base for the lock mechanism to fit properly into that, because it's not the right one. Duplicate the effect of that pin, because without it the lid could shift over on that case and let it pop off while you were carrying it by the handle. So we need to do something for that. I reviewed some of what I had videoed before, and I cut some areas off. I was out of view of the camera, so when I'm editing I'll try and clean that up as best I can. This stuff is not as thick as the original. It's going to take 2 layers of this just to build up the same thickness again. We're sticking down just a little bit lower than we want to be with what's the bottom layer of the 2 pieces I just put on. But I think we can just shave that off later after it's dry. So we'll get something solid across the end of that so I can clamp it down. Well, that is setting in there. This glue sets fairly quick, so it's not going to take that long. So doing some research on this, and there is, I don't know if I want to say a fair bit of information online, but there's certainly some conflicting information online. So starting out with the serial number, trying to find out where it was built, and most of what I saw had a place in Quebec. I can't pronounce it, but it's st.jean, so Saint Jean, -sur-richeleu. And one of the things that I came across, it said St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. And it's not St. John's, Newfoundland. It is Saint Jean sur whatever here in Quebec. So that's where the machine may have been built. Most likely that's where the machine was assembled. Singer started out with a couple of major factories in Scotland, and they produced a lot of the parts in those factories in Scotland. And as the company expanded and started setting up smaller factories in other countries, such as Canada and Russia and other places, they would quite often ship the parts to those countries, and the machines would end up being assembled there. So can't say for sure that it was built in Canada. Most likely it was just assembled there at that factory. They made some components and the rest was shipped in. Now it does have an electric motor on it. Singer started using electric motors on their machines in 1921. The serial number and the date, or the manufacturer and everything on the motor, says that the motor was made at one of those plants in Scotland. Was in the Kilbowie factory, Kilbowie, in Clydeside, Scotland. That's where the motor and whatnot was actually made, and then likely shipped to Quebec, where it was assembled on the machine. This is what they call a 12.5-inch base model, and this is a Bentwood case that it has for it. There's a hole in the front of this case here, and originally there would have been an arm that comes out and it hangs down over the front of your table, and you'd use your knee to push that arm, and it would make electrical contacts inside of here to start the motor up. This one has an electric foot pedal, but there's also the hole for that knee control there. So I'm almost thinking this is not the original base platform for this machine. I believe the foot pedal and the motor is correct. This one has a bolt-on light, which Singer started to use in 1921. They come up with this light. So I think this is all original. I'm not convinced that the case is, though. But it is period correct as far as the material it's made, how it's made. It is period correct, other than it has that hole for the knee control, which wouldn't have been required for this. Unless they just built them with that as a standard case. You know, maybe the cases were made by the thousands in another factory, and the case was used either way. So it could, for that reason, it could still be the proper case. Further research on the serial number led me to find that I believe this actual machine was built in 1924. So 1911 patent date, 1921 they come up with the light and the motor arrangement. 1924 this machine was actually built. The decals, the artworks on it, there's all different kinds of artwork that Singer used. There's nothing particular about the artwork that helped me date the machine at all. This wheel on here, the counterbalance wheel, being chrome on the outside, doesn't help you date it, but it's an added feature when you're trying to value the machine. That wheel being chrome is one of the things they look for. This mechanism for winding the bobbin, this is what they call a high mount. Some of them were mounted down very low, so that was another thing to look at when it came to trying to date it. Some of the features that it does not have helped in dating it also. and the shuttle assembly, how that works. The earlier ones were a different design than that. So all of those things combined, and they were pretty much all different websites. You had to go and read articles about all of that stuff. So all of that led me to believe that this was built 1924, probably assembled in Quebec. The motor and the light were original to it when it was built in 1924. Is there anything else I can tell you about it? Yes, there's a knob. I didn't know this. I found out doing the research. I thought this was just a chrome button here. I didn't realize it did anything. It's actually for adjusting the stitch length. And I didn't know that even had that, or what that was for. So I learned something new about the machine that I didn't before know. It's going to work good. So I could have just sanded and refinished the entire thing, but for most people, that if anybody was, interested in purchasing something like this as a collectible or anything, they would rather have it not refinished. So this will just give it a cleaner look. We're not restaining the whole thing. We're just going over it so that all these light colored scratches and stuff you see in it, they can absorb the stain, and they go right over top of the decal. And you can see we're not hiding that decal because all of that is smooth and shiny, so it's just wiping right back off. Kind of freshens it up. There's a lot of scratches on this side of it. You can see the difference that makes. There. I think that case is starting to look pretty good. So it's not an exact match. I may try and go over that with some clear Varathane yet, just to give it a little bit more shine, like the original case. But I think our brown tone that we have is as close as I'm going to get to a match for that. Now remember what I said before about your clear varathanes. Don't shake the cans. Gently stir them. If you shake them, you'll create bubbles in the varathane itself, and those bubbles will end up showing in your finish when you put it on. So you want to stir it, not creating any bubbles in it. There, we'll let that dry. It goes on a milky white color and then it dries clear. So we'll let that dry up. That will take a little while to dry. We've got these little wooden dowels that they had. They were originally in these front corners. So I'm going to drill a hole in there into that new piece of wood that I put in, just so I can put those back in those holes. Find the right size. I think we'll go with that. Put my fingers in that. I forgot about the wet spot on that end. Good. Okay, now the one issue we still have to cut that slot bigger for the lock mechanism to fit in, because it's not quite big enough for this one. And we have to figure out just where this lines up once it's in here, so that we can see if we have enough room to drill a hole to put something through there to act as that pin. So I'm holding the case where it would be lined up nice and straight, and I'm just watching where that lock piece that comes down, where it contacts that. And I would say that I need to cut that in this direction, probably 1/8 of an inch wider. There's still quite a few parts out there online on eBay that people are selling for these plates, a lot of the handles, these mechanisms. There is a lot of stuff out there, the shuttles, even the motors can be bought online. Very pricey though when you start buying individual pieces. I saw that exact motor and foot pedal on eBay, and for the 2 pieces and the shipping they wanted $400. From what I've seen of value of these machines, you could probably purchase this whole machine in working condition for $400. So some of the pieces, they start to get very expensive buying them individually. That shuttle that was inside there, I think it was $60 they wanted for that bobbin shuttle. Somebody had just a light kit alone with nothing else, and I think they wanted $60 for the light. All different stuff. Gonna need a smaller cutting wheel to get in there closer. So I think we'll do some hand filing on that to finish that off. Okay, so I've opened that slot up a little bit. I'm not going to screw it on yet. I just want to see if we're getting close or not. That might work. that might do it. Now we're ready to screw the lock into this lid. That was a fail. We forgot the pin. The pin that we ground off, and I said we needed to drill a hole and put a little machine screw in. That's why we need it. So that's letting that lid shift over with the weight of it, and it pulls that out of there. So that's why we need the pin to stop that from being able to shift over and do that. Well, I think we're done. The pin that I had ground off that lock originally, because it was hitting right on top of one of these screws, I was hoping to have enough room to be able to drill through here, put a small machine screw through and let it stick out, and then drill a mating hole for that in here. Couldn't do it. Where that lock mechanism is riveted to this steel plate, the amount of clear areas that I had left all wanted to hit where these screws were. So I know everybody's going to hate this idea. Since I replaced this piece of wood anyhow, I drilled a hole in this piece of wood and set a wooden dowel in it and just left it sticking out 1/4 of an inch. And then I drilled a matching hole for that over here in the edge of this wooden base. So now when this piece goes on, it slides into its clip at the back. That dowel pin lines up and it's down tight. Everything's nice and straight on the sides. We can lock it, and we have a portable sewing machine. A heavy portable sewing machine, but it's portable. So it's not falling apart now like it did the last time, and it's all because of that alignment pin wasn't there, so the top could shift over, and then that lock came out of its slot. So now, as long as we don't lose, well, if we lose the key, we can still use a screwdriver to open it, but for now, I think this project is done. Our stain is dried. It turned out good. Our piece that we patched on the back side, we did put a little bit of urethane over it, so we've got a closer match there now. Say it's not 100%, but it's a lot better than what it was with the broken up veneer that was on there before. Just rubbing stain over the whole thing covered up some of the scratches that were in it without blended away a little bit. So that's it. The sewing machine project's finished. I did find there is a website, if you have one of these and you're trying to find information about it. A good website to start with is ISMACS International, ISMACS, and it stands for International Sewing Machine Collector Society. It's a good place to start. They've got some links there that take you to other things for serial numbers and different models. They got pictures of different designs, so you can sort of go by that to help get you into a particular era. So that's it for the sewing machine. Hopefully you found something you could use there. Thank you for watching.